Hey guys, it's Sadie. Today I'm going to share a design I created for a runway contest back in 2020 based in Asheville, North Carolina called Costume Drama. This contest encourages designers to utilize upcycled materials for their projects. The category I was selected for used materials related to sports. My Queen of the Courts concept sketch was based on materials sourced from sports that are played on courts such as tennis, volleyball, and badminton. This video is a time lapse of my creation process, so while I will talk through what I'm doing in each video, I'll keep my words to a minimum so you can enjoy the process without my awkwardness getting in the way. For the base of the costume, I decided to create a simple mesh bodysuit to attach the different pieces to. This was a simple design made from stretch mesh that took very little time to sew together. Once the mesh bodysuit was complete, it was time to start preparing my upcycled materials. The only item that I purchased that was not from a court sport was the lacrosse stick, which I only used for the netting since that was much easier than trying to find a full tennis net for textures. Okay, so the first step of this process was to cut up the volleyballs. First, I had to puncture them and remove the inflatable part from the inside of the balls. Then I got to cutting them apart so I could make the bandaged part of my underdress. I first cut apart each ball into the different sections, and then I cut them into strips so that I could use each individual piece placed exactly where I wanted onto the suit. I wanted the strips to be completely uniform in color, so I painted many layers of white paint on to get them to the color that I wanted them to be. Ultimately, I wanted a white undersuit, so we painted just a ton of white, which took forever because a lot of these colors were very dark and it took a lot of layers to get them completely covered. Okay, so once I was done painting forever, I needed to create a system so that I could glue these onto the bodysuit. So what I did was I sewed base strips of foam in around the areas where the layering would start, and that way those would not come detached from the bodysuit, but I could also glue each strip onto those base pieces and know that it wasn't going anywhere. You can see here where I've used contact cement to basically start applying those layers, and then I just start placing those where I felt it was good. I have this hanging on my pegboard so that I can see how it lays as it hangs, and I just kept gluing and adding more layers as I went and gluing on top of them to get the effect that I was looking for. Once I finished the bodysuit and the base dress, I moved on to the armor, that scaled armor that was wrapped around in the concept sketch, and I decided to use a base of Warbla that I'm cutting here and then I'm shaping. I didn't have a mannequin for shaping this, so I literally just shaped it on a t-shirt that I didn't care about. So I'm heating it up, and then I will place it over myself in the places where I want that to go. You'll kind of see that as I'm doing this, there's a lot of wrinkles with this method, but I didn't really care about that as long as the general shape held to my body because I was going to be covering the entire thing. This whole concept was kind of based off of my love of tennis growing up playing it, and so I really wanted that to be the centerpiece of this design. So this being the most physically demanding part of this project was cutting apart these tennis balls so I could make a scale mail armor out of them. I used an X-Acto knife to get them cut in half, but then I found that it was easier to cut them down the middle and then again into fourths from each half with a set of Kevlar shears, which worked really well. Okay, so using more contact cement on both sides of that, I applied these scales in a pattern going all the way down and around so that they would kind of overlap and look like dragon scale armor. And no, I didn't have to show the entire process, but I hope you find watching each layer of scales go down and grow over time as satisfying as I do to watch. I really wanted the white to be contrasted with gold as the other main color in this costume, so here I am just outside spray painting several layers of gold on this to get it to have that true metallic armor effect. The last bit of this process was figuring out my accessories. So here I'm figuring out where I want to lay materials down on the shoe, and I decided to kind of pivot away from queen to a more Valkyrie style so that I could use the feathers that were from these badminton birdies and incorporate that into the design more. So I had a winged shoe and a winged headpiece that I tied together at the end of this, and you can see I'm just figuring out where the materials are going to lie and cutting those out and gluing those together how I want them to look. I did have this leftover applique that was also gold, so I ended up using that to integrate the birdies onto the shoe without them looking too just glued on and a little bit more cohesive. If you've made it this far, I want to thank you for watching my whole creation process, as I ended up having to cancel competing in the show due to my first panic attack ever. As you can see in the photos, I also made a matching mask, since this was one of the first outside things I was able to do during the height of COVID in 2020 when stuff started trying to open back up. Let's just call it 2020 that made me not ready for this big of a commitment. I'm still very grateful to the people who ran the show that year, as they were very understanding and considerate as I had to cancel last minute. I ended up adding more texture to the armband after these pictures were taken, as well as weathering the white on the volleyballs so it wasn't so stark in pictures. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm planning to make more of these similar in the future, so if you did like them, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss a post.